Okay, welcome everybody to the comp section of the process book. And I'm pulling it up here. We'll go back one page too. This was the last of the 3 concepts that I submitted before. And then following that, I got some feedback in here. And then I've taken the time to reflect on that feedback before I start on my comp. If you're not doing that, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the process. The whole idea here is to generate ideas and then get feedback on it to see what you need to do, what could improve it, what parts aren't particularly clear to everybody. So there was some interesting information in here and gave me some ideas about how I'm going to narrow it down before I start working on the comp. So for the comp, you are not creating a comp for each one of the concepts. This should help you decide what concept you want to focus on and work on for the computer generated version of it. So this is when we finally start on the computer. There may be an occasion when it's not something done on the computer, but for the most part, most of your projects in graphic design will be done that way. So that would be the next step. And so let's go ahead and take a look here. And I'm explaining what the name of my comp is and then what I'm doing here. So I decided based on the feedback that I got that designs 3, the last 2 of them, they were the ones that I wanted to work on. So I played around with that idea of the partial spool, and then I worked on how I was going to get the wording in there, what kind of font I was going to use. This is a logo, so I'm doing it in black and white. You want to start in black and white for a logo. For the first design, I kind of like the way the needle stuck out of the spool. I'm talking about all of that in here, why I dropped in the name here. And, you know, I'm explaining that I left aligned it here so that it would match up with this. These are all things that you want to talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it in the layout. This is the second design that I created in here because I had multiple sketches for that concept, and I thought both of these were, you know, got enough feedback. Why not develop both of them on the computer? So this one is another spool of thread idea. For here, I've tucked the name into the base of it, and I'm explaining why. I'm explaining why I've let the needle do this just to add a little bit of more dynamic design to it. And even though the text is a little bit smaller here, I do discuss that in here and how I think even as a small size, which is something you have to be aware of with a logo design, that I think the whole mark will still be visible and readable, even if the text isn't as visually readable. So those are all things that I'm discussing in here as I'm completing my first comp. And then, of course, I'm going to get some feedback and some reflection on that. That's really important. You want to include all of the feedback that you get, and then you want to include your thoughts on what you need to do to improve it. So there's some feedback in here about how I might change things with this one and with this one, ideas about both of them. And that's what I'm going to be doing on the next step. Now, in most classes, you're going to get 1 comp, and then you'll move on to the final. In some of my classes, I like to have 2 comps, both turned in separately as separate assignments during the week, and both become different sections within your process book. So the second comp is something that you may or may not be required to do and submit as such, but it's a good idea to do it anyway. You're getting feedback on it, so there's no reason why you can't create that design, rework some of the things, reflect and rework some of the things in the initial comp, and then you can always submit it back into the thread and ask for additional feedback, or send it to your instructor and ask for additional feedback on it based on the feedback that you had gotten before. So even if you're not utilizing the comp in the same way in every class, you can certainly use that process. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Here's Comp 2. Okay, so with Comp 2, I took some of the ideas of what they were talking about, tried flipping this a different direction. I tried adding a sign in here. That was one of the things that was suggested just based on how it was. And then I talk about what I like and dislike about those things as I'm explaining it in here. So, you know, Comp 2 just shows a little bit of revision to the original comp. And then those things I'm going to also get feedback on, and then I can reflect on that. And that should really help me narrow it down before I create my final design, and the final design we will discuss in the final video.